I spoke to Amy Celico, who leads the China team for the Albright Stonebridge Group. She has been involved in developing trade policy positions for bilateral discussions with China, and she gave us her thoughts on progress made in the 100-day action plan.
Well, I think the real outcome and benefit of the 100-day plan was that both sides said, we have a relationship that is very important. It's important that we cooperate and find ways to move forward together. And so the 100-day plan allowed us to do that. It set out very specific goals over 100 days in financial services and, like you said, agricultural trade, but also in other areas where we could say market access is actually improving for Chinese imports into the United States, as well as, of course, for American exports to China. And the 100-day plan laid that out so that there would be progress in the relationship when the two sides met tomorrow.
Deadline already passed. 100 days doesn't sound like a great deal of time. Do you think that this was realistic or too ambitious?
I think ambition is good for the relationship. For one thing, we have a mature relationship. And so our relationship can withstand a little bit of adversity. And that's what we have in the trade relationship. There's a lot of contentious issues baked in here, but there's also this recognition by our government and China's that we have to work together to overcome some of these challenges. For the Trump administration, one of those key challenges is the imbalance in the trade relationship. And so again, the 100-day plan said, we're going to find areas where we can make real progress, and then we're going to build on that. Today, Secretary Ross, in speaking on the eve of the Comprehensive Economic Dialogue, actually said, we know the 100-day plan had some of the easier elements, easier deliverables. It's great to have concrete progress, but now we have to move on to more difficult areas. We know there will be more difficulties in the negotiations, but at least we have a solid platform to build upon.
So would you say that it brought momentum then going into this comprehensive economic dialogue, and then from moving from that point, are they headed down the right path?
Well, I think on the positive side, again, both sides are saying we need to make progress. We need to have concrete results. And the 100-day plan was the first attempt at that. On the negative side, I think some in the business community, many in the American business community, would say it's not enough. The issues that were raised in the 100-day plan, many of them were dealt with, but not all. And so we certainly have to broaden our focus beyond the narrow issues and sectors that were dealt with in the 100-day plan to talk about greater imbalances that we face in the bilateral relationship. From the American business community's perspective, that is that there are more constraints on American foreign investors in China than there are on Chinese investors in the United States.
So what do you think we'll see on the other end of the CED?
Well, I think on the CED, we probably are going to see a little more process than results tomorrow. But it's important to look at what are the goalposts. And I think the next real goalpost for the U.S. and China is for President Trump to have a successful visit to China this fall. As you know, he's already accepted the invitation from President Xi to visit China this year. And so that likely means he'll be in Beijing in November. And so between now and November, we have real need to focus on deliverables that can be announced in November.